Chapter 21. First Combat. Chen Hao had known Su Yu for years. He knew this buddy of his well. There were no other students around. That was a lie. This person was from the Myriad race cult. He had nearly gotten Su Yu killed. I'm too stupid. Sorry, Yu. Sorry. Chen Hao's legs turned limp, and his entire body felt weak. He suddenly recalled what Su Yu said previously, and hurriedly said, "Instructor, I'm scared. My legs are limp. Can you give me a hand?" He was really scared, and he really couldn't walk. Both his legs were trembling. The man turned around impatiently. If it wasn't for the sake of finding the remaining students, he would have cut this student down immediately. He was worried that killing this student now would scare the other students away. If they started running, he might not be able to catch all of them. "I'll carry you." The man reached out, preparing to carry Chen Hao with him. "Ha! You're so useless. Why are you troubling the instructor?" Behind the man, Su Yu mumbled as he tightened his grip on his saber. His palms were sweating so much the handle felt slippery. While mumbling, he approached the man. The moment the man reached out for Chen Hao, Su Yu's eyes flickered with ruthlessness. That was the moment he had been waiting for. Walk yourself. Don't trouble the instructor." Whoosh! The sound of a swinging blade rang out, and the man looked back instinctively, wondering if he had been discovered. It didn't matter, though. He was only dealing with source opening cultivators here. Only source opening? Source opening? No, that was not the case. The man wanted to dodge, but he found himself incapable of controlling his limbs any longer. His neck was suddenly assaulted by intense pain. By mere instinct, the man thought to himself that this wasn't the right way to sever one's head. The cut was too sloppy. It hurt badly. When severing heads, one needed to be fast, accurate, and ruthless. This kid wasn't accurate enough. Failing to sever the head in one go, subjecting the man to an intense torture. Plop! The head finally dropped to the ground. The man's body was still standing there, maintaining the same posture as before. One of his hands was still holding onto a saber while the other was still in the middle of reaching out for Chen Hao. The dream of killing more than 10 students was no more. Only eternal silence remained for the man. 1 second, 2 seconds. Pop! The corpse collapsed onto the ground. Hoo! Su Yu heavily gasped for breath as his mind turned blank. A decent amount of blood had sprayed onto Chen Hao's face, so his mind was blanking out. Killed? You had killed that fellow with one slash. Yeah. Chen Hao wasn't able to control his limbs as he fell weakly onto the ground. Using all 4 of his limbs, he crawled towards Su Yu, ignoring how sorry he looked. He had almost pissed himself earlier from fear. He's dead. He's dead. Dead. Looking at the corpse and the blood on the ground, Su Yu's voice was hoarse as he said, "Calm. Stay calm. This is an enemy. An animal of the Myriad race cult. It's not like you've not seen any executions before. Let's go. We need to change our hiding place. Or more of them might come. This was not the time to deal with the corpse. They need to prioritize running away." That one slash he had performed earlier was causing his entire body to hurt. It wasn't a physical pain either. He was mentally in pain. Yes, go. We need to go. Chen Hao was about to crawl away before he thought of something. With his teeth clenched and his eyes shut, he turned around before searching the corpse. He did not dare to look at the corpse, but he also remembered that this would help him join a war academy. As he searched, he could feel the sticky sensation on his palms. He didn't even dare to think about it. Before long, he found a small package. Without thinking or looking at it, he pulled it out and stuffed it into his pocket before dragging Su Yu away. Su Yu was slightly calmed by Chen Hao's antics. He couldn't help scolding. "You're still thinking of that at this time? Are you trying to die? I can get into? A war academy with it? You killed him. You're amazing." Su Yu stopped talking and focused on leaving the cafeteria. Chen Hao. He did not dare to go too far away as he was afraid that he would stumble upon more enemies. Instead, he picked a dark corner outside the cafeteria as the new hiding spot. Thump! 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 Su Yu's heart was still thumping fast, but he was slowly calming down. After a bit, he heaved a long breath and muttered, "That's nothing special. If I can get used to being killed, there's nothing I can't get used to." He was speaking in a self-mocking manner. Since he could accept his death, Why would he be afraid of causing someone else's death? Meanwhile, battle was still raging all over the school. It might have seemed like a lot had happened, but only a minute had passed since the cult members stepped into the cafeteria. "Ha, Did you piss yourself?" "And no, don't make things up. I didn't." Chen Hao denied, with his face flushed red. Despite his strong denial, he still hurriedly glanced at his crotch. He was relieved to see it dry. He had been so scared that he couldn't feel anything. He probably wouldn't realize it even if he had really pissed himself. You're so incredible. Stop talking." Suyu scanned their surroundings. He could hear the shouts of their instructors. He could also see some people searching around in the distance. The school is losing the upper hand. If it wasn't for that, the instructors wouldn't have allowed the cult members to freely search the school for students. There would definitely be some lone students around. Some might have been killed by now. Looking at the saber in his hand, he wiped the blood off his body using some leaves he found nearby. Clenching his teeth, he asked, "How are you afraid of death?" "Yeah, no? Go!" "Go and see if there are other cult members nearby. If you see someone alone, just tell them that there are several students hiding here waiting for rescue." "What?" Suyu explained. "The instructors don't have enough people to deal with these cult members. If we allow them to find the other students, they will be dead. Just lure an enemy or two over. I'll kill them and prevent a few deaths on our side. Chen Hao was about to object when he recalled how Suyu had killed the previous enemy with one swing of his saber. Instantly, his fear evaporated. Yeah, these enemies weren't that scary after all. "Okay, I'll go." Can you still kill more?" "Yes, okay. We'll kill one more. You can get the credit for the previous kill, but can you give me the credit for the next kill? I want to join a war academy as well." "Sure." At that, Chen Hao forgot all his fear and giggled in a silly manner. Even his limbs regained their strength. With his body slightly bent, Chen Hao peeked out from his hiding spot and looked around. Shortly after, he discovered several cult members searching the area. The nearest cult member was less than 100 meters away. Chen Hao was still somewhat afraid, but he calmed himself and spoke with a shuddering voice. "Instructor? Is that an instructor?" Not far away, the cult member's ears trembled as he looked straight at Chen Hao. "Is that an instructor? We're scared. Can you take us away?" "Instructor?" The cult member's eyes flickered. Was this student seeing him as an instructor? That was understandable. This was a conflict between fellow humans, and both sides looked the same. A normal student wouldn't be able to separate the two from each other. Of course, a more experienced person would be able to see the difference between the two. But these students were completely inexperienced. What would they know? "Instructor, we still have a few people here. Can you take us away?" "So someone was trying to kill us earlier." "A few more." The cult member grew excited. He could see that Chen Hao was really afraid. That pale face couldn't be faked. The cult member rushed over. He did not even consider the possibility of an ambush. The instructors with the strength to mount a proper ambush would be busy fighting somewhere else by now. There were fights everywhere in the school. Even the instructors assigned to protect the students were fully occupied. They wouldn't have the manpower to spare for any ambushes. Chen Hao hastily scrambled back behind the wall. The man's ears trembled as he stretched his hearing. He wasn't afraid of ambush, but he still instinctively kept his guard up. Unless he was facing someone stronger, he would be able to detect any hidden opponent with his senses. There's another student hidden there. He could hear some faint breathing. The breathing was heavy, clearly belonging to someone nervous. It was also quite loud, so it wasn't coming from someone in the great strength realm. "You said that there are a few more of you. Are the others hiding somewhere else?" The man glanced at his distant companions. These were his contribution points. He had to be careful not to let his companions discover these students. The man finally stepped behind the wall and saw that there was indeed another student there. The second student also had a pale face. "An instructor is here? Zhou Tao and the others are still waiting for us." "Instructor, what's going on? Has the Myriad race cult bastards broken into the school?" Yu hurriedly asked, joy apparent on his face. He tossed his saber away and ran forward, seemingly in great fear. "Instructor, I'll take you to them." The saber had been tossed aside. The man was instantly relieved. Source-opening cultivators might still pose some threat to them with weapons, But when they were empty-handed, they wouldn't be able to kill a great strength cultivator, even if they were allowed to attack freely. These students really thought that he was their instructor. What a foolish bunch. Where are they? The man couldn't hide the joy in his voice. Like the previous cult member, he was seeing this encounter as free contribution points. Instructor, follow me. Suyu reached out, looking like he was trying to drag the man off with him. The man frowned slightly. He wanted to avoid the hand, but he calmed down and decided to tolerate this for a little bit longer. Splurt! The moment that thought crossed his mind, the incoming hand turned into sharp claws before penetrating his flesh and stabbing into his heart. The hand he was using to carry his saber was grabbed by a second hand. With a crack, that arm was broken. The cult member wanted to shout, but he couldn't do so before his throat was torn apart. Splurt! Splurt! Large amount of blood sprayed out of the man's mouth. He collapsed onto the ground while staring blankly at Suyu. Great strength realm! High stage great strength realm! Impossible! This was Nanyuan! How could a student here be a great strength cultivator? This wasn't possible. Suyu hurriedly searched the corpse before dragging Chen Hao away. Chen Hao clearly not feeling any fear anymore. That idiot. He really thought that Suyu could kill anyone. What was he doing standing there in excitement instead of running? While running, Suyu caught a golden flash at the edge of his vision. He looked up at the sky, and he was stunned by what he saw. A familiar figure was floating in the sky, shrouded in gold. Instructor Liu. Chen Hao saw the same sight. He was similarly shocked. In the air, Liu Wenyan was shining with a golden light. Source Qi gathered around him. Liu Wenyan's voice wasn't loud, but it was somehow able to spread very far. It was never my desire to reach the Sky Roar realm. I only wish for world peace. How cool. How fake. That was the thought in Suyu's mind. Sure, that was really cool, but that was also very fake. Instructor Liu clearly longed to achieve willpower materialization, but after finally achieving it, he claimed that it wasn't his wish to enter the Sky Soar realm. What a liar. Chapter 22. Total defeat 1. Liu Wenyan had broken through into the Sky Soar realm. One would not be able to soar into the sky without first entering the Sky Soar realm. Clearly, Liu Wenyan had successfully achieved willpower materialization, officially becoming a Sky Soar cultivator. His body was still unrefined, but the rich source qi gathering around him would take care of that. Dozens of meters away, Wu Hen was also floating in the air, his expression ugly. He had failed to stop the breakthrough. Fortunately, he has just broken through. His body remains in the previous realm. Wu Hen could only rejoice that it wasn't the worst-case scenario yet. Liu Wenyan was an old man with a waning body. Even if his willpower had reached the Sky Soar realm, his body was still stuck in the Great Strength realm. Wu Hen was a second-stage Sky Soar cultivator. He did not fear a brand-new Sky Soar cultivator like Liu Wenyan. The cult still had the upper hand here. They had more infinite strength cultivators, while the infinite strength cultivators of the Martial Dragon Guards were kept occupied by Hallmaster Chen. The school had only been able to last this long due to the larger number of great strength cultivators on their side. Die! Wu Hen unleashed all his strength, materializing a short blade from thin air. The glowing blade instantly shot toward Liu Wenyan. You're trying to fight a cultural researcher from range? Scum like you are incapable of comprehending the might of cultural researchers. Freeze. The flying blade froze mid-flight. Return! Whoosh! The blade spun around and shot toward Wu Hen instead. Wu Hen was about to move aside when Liu Wenyan's head erupted with a blinding golden radiance. Freeze! This time, he was freezing Wu Hen instead of the blade. Instantly, Wu Hen felt the space around him constricting, fixing him in place. Don't even think about it. With a roar, Wu Hen started bleeding from his 7 orifices. Golden light erupted from his eyes as he used all his strength and forcefully took a single step aside. Splurt! The blade that was aimed toward his head stabbed into his shoulder. Blood sprayed out like a fountain. He had still been hurt, but at least he had avoided a fatal hit. Impossible. Fear covered Wu Hen's face. This is not possible. You have just broken through. Even if cultural researchers are stronger, you shouldn't be able to freeze me. Cultural researchers were willpower cultivators. Thus, they were stronger than regular skysoar cultivators. Physical cultivators might not be able to contend against willpower cultivators in terms of mental power, but they had stronger bodies and plentiful vitality. Liu Wenyan shouldn't have been able to fix his body in place. That's because you're too weak, Liu Wenyan laughed. However, he still paled slightly. Clearly, the previous move hadn't been easy for him. Even so, he still laughed loudly. Myriad race cult? Merely frogs at the bottom of the well trying to contend against the sun and the moon. Die. With a roar, the blade in Wu Hen's shoulder started trembling. Wu Hen's face changed as he pushed the blade out with his source chi, before turning around to flee. However, he wasn't Liu Wenyan's actual target. The blade streaked through the air and pierced through the head of one of the infinite strength cult members that were facing off against the commander of the city guard and the head of the Windcatcher department. Before any of them could react, the others were alarmed and instantly tried fleeing. As Liu Wenyan made another move, the cult members found their bodies fixed in place. The commander and department head wasted no time in swinging their blades and killing 2 of the frozen cult members. At the same time, the 3rd cult member was stabbed by the flying blade. 4 down! 4 infinite strength cultivators had been killed in the blink of an eye. Wu Hen, the woman who was fighting the mayor, roared furiously. He has just broken through. He only has a limited amount of willpower. Keep him busy. Damn it. Keep him busy. Do you want to be tortured to death? If Wu Hen had not fled in fear, Liu Wenyan wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to kill the 4 infinite strength cultivators. That was a heavy loss for the cult. Wu Hen's expression changed. He clenched his teeth and charged Liu Wenyan once again. At this point, Liu Wenyan's face was turning more and more pale. In truth, Liu Wenyan was only putting up a brave front. At this point, he was basically an arrow at the end of its flight. He had used his willpower on the blade and several infinite strength cultivators in a row. Thus, he had almost exhausted all his existing willpower. Without his willpower, he was only as strong as a great strength cultivator. He would be much less dangerous with only his body. When he saw Wu Hen turning around, his face fell as he hurriedly retreated. Wu Hen was overjoyed to see that. With a wave of his hand, he recoiled his short blade and increased his speed. Liu Wenyan continued retreating, but Wu Hen was able to instantly catch up before stabbing the blade into Liu Wenyan's head. Die! The blade penetrated the head without any resistance whatsoever. Wu Hen was overjoyed. Right that moment, a voice rang out behind him. Idiot! Retreat! The roar woke Wu Hen from his excitement. He felt like he had just awakened from a dream. As he checked around him, the dead Liu Wenyan was nowhere to be seen. He had been tricked by an illusion. Willpower interruption. Impossible! He has only freshly broken through. How can he? The thought had just crossed his mind when a needle stabbed through his spirit palace. Source chi started leaking from his body, making it difficult for him to even stay in the Skysoar realm. Damn it! The woman and the old man from the cult were getting anxious. Wu Hen's willpower was too weak, to the point Liu Wenyan had successfully cast an illusion on him. And with his spirit palace punctured and his source chi leaking, everything was over for Wu Hen. Boom! With a palm attack, the old man pushed Xia Bing back before turning around to flee. But 9 infinite strength cultivators from the martial dragon guards instantly charged him, stopping him from escaping. Retreat! Instead of shouting the order, the old man only looked at the woman and signaled her with his eyes. He was telling her to let the others stay as a distraction while they made their escape. Wu Hen was already finished. Sure, even with the addition of a cultural researcher on their opposing side and the loss of a Skysoar cultivator on their side, the cult still had the chance to win this fight. But what was the point of putting their lives on the line? At worst, they would just fail the mission. Did the higher-ups really expect them to fight until the end? The two reached an agreement. Not far away, Wu Hen's head had just been stabbed by his own blade. Even toward the end, he still couldn't believe everything that was happening. He had been killed by Liu Wenyan, a brand new Skysoar cultivator whose physical body was still stuck at the Great Strength Realm. Plop! The corpse fell to the ground. Liu Wenyan landed on the ground, while breathing heavily. Looking at the Skysoar cultivators that were still fighting bitterly, he smiled and said, "Kill them all." Once again, he unleashed his willpower. The escaping infinite strength cultivators found their bodies turning sluggish. During combat, that was fatal. Zhang Yun and Zheng Hoa promptly killed them all. The two were ninth-stage infinite strength cultivators after all. As high-ranking individuals of Nanyuan, the two were not weak and were able to work well together. They were able to easily kill the cult members the moment Liu Wenyan slowed them down. Corpses of infinite strength cultivators fell one after another. At that point, the other cult members lost all their courage. If they actually had the courage to stand their ground and fight until the end, they might still stand a chance at winning the battle. After all, they still had around 20 infinite strength cultivators around, and their two hallmasters were still keeping the mayor and martial dragon guards occupied. Thus, the cult could definitely still fight it out, despite being weakened. After all, Liu Wenyan did not have unlimited willpower. But they wouldn't have joined the Myriad race cult if they were really so courageous. These people were only brave when things were going well for them. The moment things went sideways, they would fall like dominoes. Retreat, run, run quickly. Hundreds of cult members had participated in this mission, and they were all fleeing in fear. With their back exposed, the instructors and city guards were able to instantly kill over a dozen cult members. In the blink of an eye, over 100 of the 300 cult members were killed. The remaining members started fleeing in all directions. Run! The two hallmasters were no longer in the mood to keep fighting either. The mission had failed. Since the mission had failed, they would flee. There was no need to throw their lives away. As for things like honor and glory, they were non-existent for these cult members. For them, nothing was more important than staying alive. Even knowing that Liu Wenyan was probably unable to fight much longer, they still fled unhesitatingly. This was Nanyuan. If they allowed themselves to get bogged down by combat, it would only be a matter of time before they were killed. The two hallmasters were respectively 3rd stage and 4th stage Skysoar cultivators. They were able to fight while retreating. After all, they were stronger than the two Skysoar cultivators they were facing. At the same time, the other escaping cult members were using everything they had to flee the scene. At that moment, a group of people arrived outside the school. Some were old, some were middle-aged, and some were disabled. "Archers, shoot!" A white-haired old man roared, and instantly, over a dozen old men unleashed the arrows from their bows. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, about a dozen cult members were killed. "Spears, formation!" Dozens of old and middle-aged men stepped forth and stabbed out with their spears. "Sabers, advance! Die!" Sounds of dropping limbs echoed in the air as the morale of the cult members dropped even lower. Some started crying in fear, and some started begging for mercy. The leading old man merely curled his lips in disdain. They were making trouble in Great Zia with only this much strength. "Nanyuan's militia is here. Kill! Leave no mercy. Die!" The roars of the group of elderly individuals rumbled through the air. Plop! Plop! One head after another fell onto the ground. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were killed. Behind the cult members, the pursuing city guards approached and subjected the cult members to a pincer attack. The cult had suffered a complete defeat. Idiots! How can one retreat like this during combat? By exposing your backs to your enemies, what else are you supposed to do apart from dying? The old man appeared completely indifferent. This was nothing. This was merely a skirmish with several hundred participants. Could this even be considered a battle? Some of the cult members saw the leading old man and were in complete disbelief. They knew this old man. He was someone who would have difficulties climbing the stairs, a stingy neighborhood grandpa who would always bargain, even when buying some cheap groceries. An old man like that was leading a group of senior citizens who were supposed to be doing recreational activities at the local park to kill them? What are you looking at? Have you never seen a killer before? The old man roared, "Where are the axe-bearers? Throw your axes!" Whoosh! Instead of axes, about a dozen cleavers one could usually see in the kitchen were thrown through the air. They accurately struck the cult members, instantly cleaving through about a dozen heads. "Old Zhang, are you blind? You nearly hit me with that." The leading old man cursed. One of those cleavers had nearly struck him. Behind him, an old man with a crooked back said helplessly, "My hand was trembling. I'm getting old. Come on, it's not like it hit you. Cut the crap." The old man roared again. "You, youngsters over there, have you been missing your meals or something? Why are your attacks so weak? Don't you know that we can't hold on much longer? Kill them faster. If they left the encirclement, us old bags of bones won't be able to keep up with them. Die. That drove the instructors, city guards, and windcatcher department officers mad. This was too embarrassing. They had allowed hundreds of enemies to escape, but these old fellows that couldn't even run were able to instantly kill about 100 of them. If they didn't pick their pace up and kill some, they would be too embarrassed to show their faces in the city anymore. The battle proceeded smoothly. The cult members had no discipline whatsoever, and with their crumbling morale, it didn't take long before most of them were killed. Only a few infinite-strength cultivators were still trying hard to escape, but it was only a matter of time before they were taken down. Of all the fights occurring, the fights of the Skysoar cultivators were the most intense. They were currently fighting outside the school. The two cult members no longer intended to fight and only wanted to flee. Seeing that they wouldn't have much chance to kill the two, Zia Bing suddenly roared, "Let him go! Focus on the woman." The 10 martial dragon guards did not hesitate and gave up on the old man to charge the woman instead. "Hallmaster Chen! Hallmaster Chen!" the woman yelled desperately. But Hallmaster Chen did not even spare her a glance. He soared into the sky and streaked away. As far as he was concerned, nothing was more important than keeping himself alive. In the blink of an eye, the old man had flown hundreds of meters away. In his eyes, one could see the joy of someone who had escaped calamity. They initially held the upper hand, but after deciding to flee, they had lost almost all their members. This old man no longer felt like staying. The people of Great Zia were indeed fierce, including their civilians. He had not expected that a bunch of retired veterans could unleash such a powerful combat strength. Some of those veterans were only middle-stage great strength cultivators with weakened bodies due to old age. But after entering a military formation, they were able to kill a large number of high-stage great strength cultivators in the blink of an eye. That was actually one of the strengths of humanity, strict army discipline. The old man felt very lucky that the woman had attracted the firepower away from him. The woman was dead for sure. He couldn't afford to keep thinking, and focused only on fleeing, disregarding the high exhaustion rate of his source chi as he flew quickly. He could be stopped easily if he escaped on the ground, but by choosing to fly, he also made himself an obvious target. While the old man was rejoicing his escape, a young man suddenly appeared before him. Chapter 23. Total defeat 2. How lucky. "There's one here." The young man had a smile on his face. The old man's expression changed. "You." Assistant Researcher Bai Feng of Great Zia Cultural Research Academy. Merit points acquired. Next, the old man felt his source chi dispersing. He paled and said, "You dispersed my source chi? Yeah, that's easy." Bai Feng explained with a smile. The Divine Skywing technique cultivated by the Divine Skywing Sex Master is a useless cultivation method with numerous openings. It was something the Divine Skywing race used to deceive you fools. It is way too easy to make you suffer from the backlash of your own cultivation. Sorry. I can't keep chatting. I still have something else to do. Die, my friend. Thank you for the merit points. Once again, Bai Feng flashed the old man a big smile. His willpower erupted and instantly punctured the 9 acupoints of the old man. The old man suffered a backlash from his own source chi, instantly killing him. Well, this is profitable. With a wave of Bai Feng's hand, the old man's possessions flew toward him. I love nothing more than free merit points. A 4th-stage Skysoar cultivator is worth quite a lot of merit points. He then looked at the ongoing battle not far away and asked, "Do you need help?" The Martial Dragon Guard squad leader roared. "Piss off! Bai Feng, you have been hiding all along. Now you're here to reap the harvest of our hard work." "That is absolutely not true," Bai Feng said with an aggrieved tone. "I just arrived. Sigh, you fellows from the Martial Dragon Guards really have a bad temper. I'm a great researcher. Why would I do something like that?" Looking at Liu Wenyan, who was flying in his direction, Bai Feng immediately smiled. "Congratulations, Martial Uncle Liu, for your breakthrough." Liu Wenyan glanced at Bai Feng with an unhappy expression. "Shut your mouth! I'm not your martial uncle." "Martial uncle, teacher reminded me to." "Scram!" Liu Wenyan showed no mercy and shouted with an ugly expression. He did not seem happy seeing this guy. Bai Feng sighed. Just how had he offended these people here? He was telling the truth. He had really just arrived, and since he happened to encounter a fourth-stage skysaur cultivator upon arrival, he decided to help them with that enemy. Was this how they repay him? Bai Feng stopped talking and landed on the ground. He ignored the ongoing battle, as the martial dragon guards and the mayor should be able to deal with one-third stage skysaur cultivator. If they could get themselves killed even in such a situation, they deserved the death. Martial uncle. Bai Feng had barely said anything when Liu Wenyan berated. "Who's your martial uncle?" Cough, cough, cough. "Instructor Liu. I'm calling you Instructor Liu." Bai Feng smiled awkwardly and said, "Instructor Liu, right after receiving your request, the academy sent me over. Teacher is very worried about you." Liu Wenyan became even more furious. "I don't need him worrying over me. I'm living a good life. Also, for how tardy you are, you want me to consider this a favor from him. This is an official business, not a private matter. Nobody is doing anyone any favors." Yes, exactly. "You're right." Bai Feng did not mind the harsh words. With the same fawning smile, he said, Instructor Liu, the school is fine, right?" Liu Wenyan frowned. Behind him, the principal walked over while breathing heavily. With a sad tone, he said, 5 instructors were killed. The city guards and Windcatcher department have lost more than 10 people as well. As for the students, those in the classrooms are fine. Those outside, I'm afraid more than 10 of them were killed." Liu Wenyan's face turned ugly. Bai Feng stopped smiling and awkwardly said, "I had really tried my best to get here as soon as possible. I didn't even stop along the way. Principal Wang, martial uncle, I'm sorry. I thought I could arrive in time." Liu Wenyan only snorted angrily instead of saying anything. The principal did not blame Bai Feng. He said, "All things considered, this is actually a good result. It is even better that you have managed to kill their last skysaur cultivator as well. As for the casualties, there really wasn't anything they could do about it. The Myriad race cult wasn't weak. With only 30 deaths, they had eliminated so many cult members. This could be considered a great victory, even on the Alhaven battlefield. So strong, Su Yu and Chen Hao had arrived near the school gate. They had both witnessed the previous battle. Su Yu was very shocked to see how powerful that young man was. Previously, the martial dragon guards had spent a long time fighting Hallmaster Chen, yet failed to defeat him. There were even a couple of close calls where Hallmaster Chen was nearly able to kill some of them. However, this Bai Feng fellow was able to easily kill Hallmaster Chen. What was his cultivation level? So this is someone from a cultural research academy. So you couldn't help but to give Liu Wenyan a glance. So the instructor hadn't been lying after all. A random person from a cultural research academy was already this strong. Even a 4th-stage skysaur cultivator was instantly killed. Also, the instructor had instantly killed several infinite-strength cultivators and 1 2nd-stage skysaur cultivator right after his willpower materialization. That was too unbelievable. Is this the strength of cultural research academies, the strength of willpower? Beside him, Chen Hao was also blanking out from shock as he muttered, "Why do they feel as weak as paper?" That was really how it looked when Liu Wenyan killed Wu Hen. It was the same when Bai Feng killed Hallmaster Chen. The 2 cult members had been killed before they could even blink. I don't know. Su Yu was finding all this hard to process as well. His father was a 9th-stage great strength cultivator. He had always thought that his father was quite strong. But after witnessing people like Instructor Liu and Bai Feng, his father was truly weak. In fact, dozens of infinite strength cultivators were killed today. His father must be quite fearless to enter the Alhaven battlefield with that little strength of his. While Su Yu was in thought, a shrill voice rang out in the air. The woman's head was cleaved open by Xia Bing, killing her on the spot. Just like that, the attack of the cult came to an end. It ended with a total defeat for them. Hundreds of their elite members had been killed. Not one was spared. On that day, Su Yu had killed 2 high-stage great-strength cultivators. He also got to witness the strength of cultural researchers. In his mind, cultural research academies had been elevated to a much higher height than before. Any random person from a cultural research academy could kill skysaur cultivators like bugs. As for Instructor Liu, that guy was probably telling the truth when he claimed that he was the weakest among them. Su Yu was completely unaware of what the title assistant researcher signified. Nanyuan City had won the conflict with the Myriad race cult. After the victory, their next step was to clear the city of the remaining cult members. At the same time, outside Great Xia City, Severed Head Mountain, at the top of a mountain shaped like a body with a severed head, Xia Longwu swung his saber, severing the final head of the divine race experts he had been facing. With a rumble, the 5-meter-tall corpse collapsed onto the ground. Have mercy! 5 divine race corpses could be seen on the ground. There was also one survivor. The survivor was not a divine. Rather, it was a human, the sect master of the divine Skywing sect. This was someone the humans had hunted for many years. They had never succeeded. He was an extremely powerful cultivator. At this moment, the mighty sect master was on his knees while trembling in fear. He loudly begged, "Spare me!" Xia Longwu raised his saber expressionlessly and glanced at the sect master before saying softly, "Since your masters are dead, you should accompany them." "No, Lord, I can be useful for you," the trembling sect master pleaded. "I can lure more divines into Great Xia for you. I can convene a general assembly of the divine Skywing sect for you. I can even help you penetrate the inner circle of the Myriad race cult and locate the strongholds of the other sects. Lord, spare me. I can be helpful for humanity." Begging for mercy was pointless. He had to demonstrate his worth. Xia Longwu was too strong. He must have entered that realm. They had been mistaken. Completely mistaken. The divine Skywing race had suffered disastrous losses during this operation. 5 of their super experts had been killed in Great Xia. Everything was over for the divine Skywing sect. They must have suffered great losses from their attacks in the other cities as well. The sect master knew that this was the end of their sect. But he didn't want to die. It had been very difficult for him to reach this level of cultivation. He was someone capable of eventually stepping into that realm. He was even willing to give up the chance to transform into a divine. He believed that he could step into that realm even while staying human. Xia Longwu overlooked the sect master from above. After a long while, he spoke. "Anything else?" "Yes, yes, the divine Skywing sect has a lot of treasures hidden in a secret grotto. I've been to the divine Skywing race's territory. I know the situation there. I can lead the way for humanity. I can help assassinate their experts. Lord, I can even go to the Alhaven battlefield and fight for humanity, as long as you spare me." The sect master trembled as he spoke in panic. He didn't want to die. They had been defeated. 6 super experts had attacked Xia Longwu and 5 had been rapidly killed. That was too terrifying. "Where is the secret grotto?" Xia Longwu asked coldly. "Lord, as long as you spare me." "Where is the secret grotto?" Xia Longwu asked again. His killing intent surged, not caring for anything other than the answer to his question. "Lord!" Swish! A blade was swung, and a head was severed. Xia Longwu snorted coldly. This fellow sure had a lot of useless things to say. It didn't matter if he was unwilling to talk. Xia Longwu would just get his people to search around. If they couldn't find the treasure, so be it. A mere animal dared to bargain with him, wanting to live. Dream on. Not one of the 6 super experts had survived the encounter with him. Xia Longwu started harvesting the corpses. These divine race corpses were all treasures, and there were 5 of them here. While he was busy looting the battlefield, a silhouette appeared atop a nearby mountain peak. Xia Longwu did not even spare that silhouette a glance and continued his harvest. Clap! 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 The newcomer was a middle-aged man. While clapping, he smiled and said, "Xia Longwu, looks like you didn't need my help after all." Xia Longwu ignored the newcomer. "Are all geniuses so arrogant?" The middle-aged man had a carefree smile. "That's understandable. It is incredible that you can reach this level at your age. That is definitely surprising. I had thought that I would need to make a move to prevent these divines from escaping, but you were surprisingly able to defeat them all by yourself." Yun Hao was the sect master of the divine Skywing sect. He was a powerful expert. Scum like him does not deserve to keep living. After Xia Longwu was done looting the battlefield, he looked at the newcomer and coldly said, "Zhu Tiandao, I don't remember inviting you to Great Xia. What are you doing here?" Why are you talking like that? No matter what, I can be considered an uncle of yours. Why are you addressing me by my name? Sigh. But Zhu Tiandao still smiled and said, just because you hadn't invited me does not mean that someone else hadn't. Those old fogies had invited me before leaving. Zia Longwu did not say anything. Clearly some people in the prefecture were worried about him, since he was going to face the enemies alone. Zhu Tiandao moved on to a different topic and asked, you haven't entered that realm, right? I think you're still a little bit off. You're probably in the same situation as me. This feeling of being stuck is terrible, right? Right? If you're already in that realm, you would have been able to instantly kill those bastards instead of taking so long to defeat them. I have an opportunity that can allow people like us to progress. We might even be able to get a better look at the path forward. Chapter 24. Gain Zia Longwu replied indifferently, no thanks, I know my path. I can see it very clearly. After a while, I'll pay the Alhaven battlefield a visit and kill a king. With that kill, I'll be able to step into that realm. I'm different from you. That rendered Zhu Tiandao speechless. He couldn't help but to curse inwardly. Was this guy trying to anger him? You really think you can do it? You won't be able to get them. The kings are all getting more and more crafty nowadays. The moment you step on the Alhaven battlefield, they will join hands against you, severing your path forward. Also, the difference before and after stepping into that realm is very big. I don't need you to tell me that. Zia Longwu did not really care about the advice he was being given. It wasn't like he had never seen an invincible expert before. His grandfather, the great Zia King, was one such invincible expert. Zhu Tiandao asked helplessly, are you not interested in what I have to say? No. Zia Longwu turned and started leaving. If your method works, you wouldn't have been so weak. If your elder brother is still alive, he would probably have a higher chance to enter that realm. You are too weak compared to your brother. Zhu Tiandao was furious. Kid, you're lucky you're only saying this to my face. If you try saying it at Great Ming, you'll get yourself beaten to death. Also, my elder brother was 9 when he passed away. How are you sure that he could be better than me? Because he is the first human to have ever entered the Great Strength realm at 9 years old. Zhu Tiandao had nothing to say. Yes, his elder brother was a genius who had reached the Great Strength realm at 9. However, it was precisely his fast speed that had practically turned him into an example of what one shouldn't do, bathing in the blood of divines and devils, entering the Great Strength realm in one day, firstborn of the great Ming King. Even now, there were more humans who knew his elder brother instead of him. Nevertheless, it still felt like he was being insulted hearing those words from Zia Longwu's mouth. Zia Longwu was serious. At least he has the courage to try. If you had entered the Alhaven battlefield 100 years ago to fight the Myriad races, you would have probably become an invincible expert by now. I'm not taking your advice. You're not worth learning from. Zhu Tiandao had nothing to say. Only after a while did he open his mouth. You're making it sound so simple, Zia Longwu. I want to see if you're really undefeatable before the war formations of the Myriad races. That's the same as throwing your life away. As someone with a chance to step into the invincible realm, why are you insisting on throwing your life away? If you get yourself killed, who can great Zia rely on? Your grandpa? Nobody even knows where he is. That caused Zia Longwu to pause slightly. He then said, it doesn't matter. My second uncle is alive. He can always come back. Him? He's even weaker than me. At that time, your great Zia will no longer be one of the 3 strongest prefectures. It's fine. Even if we are to fall, it won't be your great Ming that will replace us. Zhu Tiandao found himself incapable of communicating with Zia Longwu. He did not know whether he should laugh or cry. Seeing that Zia Longwu was about to leave, he hurriedly said, 3 years later, the Star Mansion will open. Great Ming has 10 openings while you guys have 20 openings. If we join hands, you're too weak. We won't be working with you guys. Zia Longwu. Zhu Tiandao was infuriated. I came from so far away. Is this how you treat a faraway guest? How is our great Ming weak? 3 years later, we will be sending our strongest generation to the Star Mansion. If you're unwilling to work with us, we'll have to talk business. According to the policy, you need to give me one divine race corpse for my assistance here. Zia Longwu's expression changed. If you disagree, work with us. Zia Longwu turned around and glared at Zhu Tiandao before cursing, shameless. How am I shameless? Zhu Tiandao said helplessly. We're proposing a cooperation. It's not like we're asking you to do all the work. Your great Zia might be strong, but we're not weak either. Zia Longwu snorted coldly. After a while, he replied, Fine, but if your people turn out to be too weak, I would rather give you a corpse instead. Weaklings are not worthy of working with us. He then soared into the sky and flew away. Looking at the departing figure, Zhu Tiandao stood there cussing for a while before smiling. This kid Sai, he's really strong. Zia Longwu was indeed near that realm. They might seem similar in strength, but Zia Longwu was in a much better position. After all, Zhu Tiandao had been stuck at the same level since 100 years ago. 100 years ago, this kid wasn't even born yet. Each time they saw this kid, he would show considerable progress. It was no wonder that he dared to take the risk and face 5 divine race experts in battle. As strong as the divine Skywing race, this was still a disastrous defeat for them. Not only had they lost 5 super experts, they had even lost their divine Skywing sect. Few people were aware of the situation at Great Zaya City. Even fewer people knew about the deaths of the 5 divine race experts and the sect master. That was a matter involving only those at the highest ranks. Regular people would not be informed of such a matter. Back at Nanyuan, the mayor, Liu Wenyan, and the other higher-ups were discussing the cleaning up of the remaining cult members outside the city. That wasn't a matter Suyu could participate in. At the moment, Suyu was hiding at a corner with Chen Hao while checking their gains. Are we rich? Looking at the loot before them, Chen Hao asked in excitement. Why do these people walk around with so much valuables on them? Those in the Myriad race cult trust nobody. They are also frequently forced to migrate to a new stronghold. It is only natural that they will carry all their valuables with them. Suyu wasn't too surprised. When it came to the Myriad race cult, killing their higher-ups would sometimes grant a pitiful amount of loot. That was because the higher-ups generally had a fixed residence. Those people were hidden very well in the human realm. That wasn't the case for the lower-ranked members. They had no fixed base of operation. They were always on the move, and killing them would generally net one all their belongings. 2 cultivation methods, 2 martial techniques, 5 drops of unknown blood essence. We can easily learn more about the blood essence by asking around. The more Chen Hao spoke, the wider the grin he had. There's also a bottle of body-forging pills. Too bad there are only 5 pills left. They will be very helpful for great strength cultivators. 16 pieces of Anping gold coins with a value of 10,000 Anping dollars each. This is the first time I've ever touched a gold coin. My dad has some, but he never gave me any. Gold coins were quite valuable. Some of the Myriad race cult members didn't keep too much money on them as it was quite inconvenient to carry all that money around. Thus, they would convert their money to gold coins for ease of carry. As for bank cards, they were worried that their bank accounts would be frozen in the event they were discovered. Thus, Suyu and Chen Hao had gained a decent number of gold coins after killing the 2 cult members. 16 gold coins could be exchanged for $160,000. In truth, for those in the great strength realm, this wasn't a large amount of money. After all, it wasn't cheap for them to cultivate. Do we submit our loot to the city? Chen Hao was clearly unwilling to do so, but he still asked. According to the policy, all spoils of war need to be reported and submitted. That was a reasonable policy. After all, there were more than one person participating in the battle. Submitting them. Suyu gave it some thought. Let me think about it. Submitting our loot will basically tell them that we've killed 2 cult members, but we're so weak. How do we accomplish that? How? Don't tell anyone that I was the one who had killed them. You know what I mean. Chen Hao nodded. He whispered, Why are you suddenly so strong? Those are great strength cultivators. I heard from the instructors that the cult members attacking this time are all at the 7th stage great strength realm and above. How did you penetrate their defense? Don't ask. I won't tell you. Suyu's gaze landed on the two tiny black badges on the ground. Those were the badges of the Myriad race cult. To keep their identities hidden, the cult members would normally not carry these badges around. But since this was a major operation, they were expected to pull out after it was completed. To make it easier to identify themselves to their people, they all carried these badges to the mission. That was how Su Yu and Chen Hao had come into possession of these badges. These badges could serve as the proof of their contribution during the battle. After thinking about it, Su Yu tossed one of the badges to Chen Hao before picking a cultivation method, a martial technique, 2 drops of blood essence, and 6 gold coins from the pile, and giving them all to Chen Hao. If you want to join a war academy, submit these. Use them to prove that you have killed a cult member. Chen Hao grew excited, but his mood quickly deflated as he said, "Forget it. It'll be hard to explain myself. You were the one who had killed the cult members. They will investigate the claim if I report it." He wanted to join a war academy, but submitting these items would expose Su Yu. Su Yu smiled. "It doesn't matter. It's not like great strength cultivators can't die. Of course, we definitely can't claim the kill for the second guy. I pierced his heart with my bare hand. It wouldn't be an issue to claim the first kill. With a saber, it won't be too surprising to make a kill by cutting harder. Just report the kill and claim that the enemy was careless and gave you the chance to make the kill. Will this really work?" Chen Hao was nervous. "Why don't you claim the kill instead? I thought you wanted to join a war academy as well." "Me? I won't be needing this." Su Yu was indifferent. "I can kill great strength cultivators. Do you think it'll be hard for me to join a war academy? Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that I've broken through to the 4th stage a few days ago. I can also feel that the 5th stage is near." Chen Hao felt like someone was stabbing his heart with needles. Was Su Yu telling the truth? That was too fast an improvement. But Su Yu was someone who had killed great strength cultivators. He had no choice but to believe those words. Chen Hao gazed at Su Yu with an aggrieved look. Were all geniuses this crazy? But Su Yu had not been so crazy in the past. Su Yu ignored Chen Hao. After putting away the rest of the items, he whispered, "You can claim the kill, but I need the merit points for it. Also, you still have about $10,000 in your savings, right? I want all of them as well. Consider it a payment to purchase this kill from me. Do you understand me?" What a greedy fellow. This fellow had gained so many from the kills and was still trying to get his personal savings. It wasn't like he had gotten the money easily. It had taken him years to save all that money. Was Su Yu going to take everything he had saved all these years? "Why are you looking at me like that? You'll be rewarded after submitting the loot, but the reward will be in the form of merit points." Chen Hao had a pitiful expression. Was Su Yu taking him for a fool? Su Yu had demanded for the merit points as well. That basically meant that Su Yu was going to wipe him clean. At the very least, you're getting a chance to join a war academy. Am I right? It's only $10,000. Between $10,000 and a war academy, what's your choice? Chen Hao sank into confusion. He nodded blankly. Su Yu was right. It was completely worth it to exchange $10,000 for a chance to join a war academy. "Then it's decided. You can say that I helped you, but remember to claim that you were the one to make the killing strike." What if they check the wound and find out that it's something left by someone with more than a bit of physical strength? Chen Hao wasn't a complete fool. An expert could easily see a lot of details by inspecting the wound. "Don't worry. I saw that they have gathered all the corpses to be cremated. Just wait until they're done before making the claim. At that point, there won't be anything left for them to inspect. What are you afraid of?" "But, fine. Why don't we forget it? I'm not the one desperate to enter a war academy here." Chen Hao sank into hesitation. "Fine. I'll do it. Don't worry. I won't betray you. If they're going to investigate, they can do it to me. What's so weird about me killing a cult member? I'm just that strong." Chen Hao made his choice. He still wanted to enter a war academy. This was his best chance to do so. Su Yu moved on from the topic. It wasn't likely that the school would conduct a detailed investigation on the claim. Of course, they would be doubtful. But with the corpse cremated and nobody else to claim their kill, The worst that could happen was the school paying a little more attention to Chen Hao. That was only a great strength cultivator, not an infinite strength cultivator. It wasn't impossible that a source-opening cultivator could kill one by a stroke of luck. It really wasn't that big of a deal. 10 gold coins, 3 drops of blood essence, 5 body-forging pills. 1 cultivation method, 1 martial technique. Su Yu was in a great mood as he tallied his gains from the day. Using a drop of blood essence, he had earned 10 times the value in loot. He could finally stop worrying that he would use up all his father's money and starve. He needed to figure out what race the blood essence belonged to. Maybe they could help him activate more pages in his book. Chapter 25. Merit claiming 1, while Su Yu and Chen Hao were splitting their loot. In the instructor's office, Bai Feng looked bored as he sat on a chair while looking at the endlessly arguing group before him. When they were at the end of their discussion, he finally said, "Marshal Uncle, do I still need to take those students to the capital?" "What stupid question is that? Do you think it's cheap to stay in Great Xia City?" Bai Feng had a helpless expression. These people were the ones who had wanted to send the students away. He was only confirming if that was still the case. Why was his martial uncle taking it out on him? "Martial Uncle, how about your body refinement? Is there any powerful blood essence or source chi core here at Nanyuan?" The principal laughed awkwardly. "About that, researcher Bai, you see, the academy, you don't need to plead for their help," Liu Wenyan said indifferently. "I can take my time and slowly refine my body. My willpower has materialized. There is no rush. That will greatly affect your future progress. The stronger the blood essence, the more helpful it will be for you. If you can get the blood of a sky soar realm divine or devil, with the strength of your willpower, you'll be able to instantly push your cultivation to the 3rd stage. For the path of willpower, one would not prioritize the physical body during the early phase, but upon reaching the sky soar stage, that must change. One would start training one's physical body then. At that point, the more powerful the blood essence one used, the stronger a foundation one could forge. Liu Wenyan completely ignored Bai Feng. Blood essence of divines or devils? Blood of sky soar realm experts? Where was he supposed to find something like that? Even at the Alhaven battlefield, it was extremely difficult to kill a divine or a devil. Furthermore, even the weakest of them at the Alhaven battlefield would be at the sky soar realm. If they were too strong, their blood wouldn't be suitable for him. That was also the case if they were too weak. His best option was the blood of someone in the sky soar realm. Liu Wenyan had never entertained the thought of forging his foundation with the blood of divines or devils. Even in a cultural research academy, few would be able to do something like that. The blood essence of divines and devils was simply too rare. When Bai Feng saw that Liu Wenyan was ignoring him, he thought for a bit before saying, "Teacher has a few drops of sky soar flying sky tiger blood essence. The flying sky tigers are very powerful with strong bodies. Why don't you tell teacher?" "Scram," said Liu Wenyan. Immediately after, the principal exclaimed in excitement, "Flying sky tiger? The 32nd ranked race among the Myriad races?" "Yes." "Old Liu," the principal was getting more and more excited. "Forget your ego. If you rely on yourself and Nanyuan, how are you going to get the blood essence of a top 100 race? Even if the flying sky tigers aren't as good as the divines and the devils, they aren't that much worse. Their blood essence can help you reach the 2nd stage or even a 3rd stage if you're lucky. You're an old man. Don't tell me you're going to waste more time lingering at the early stages of the sky soar realm. Without a powerful blood essence to help build a foundation, Liu Wenyan might need at least 5 years or even 10 years to reach the 3rd stage despite his strong willpower. He was over 70. He did not have much time to waste. Nearby, Xia Bing of the Martial Dragon Guards opened his mouth in hesitation. After some time, he finally said, "Instructor Liu, the flying sky tigers are very powerful. It will be a good idea for you to get a few drops of their blood essence from the academy. The Myriad race cult has entered Great Xia. Nanyuan has limited strength, so they will be needing your help." With the blood essence of flying sky tigers, Liu Wenyan would be able to build a strong foundation that might bring him to the middle stage of the sky soar realm in only a few years. If he did so, Nanyuan would gain a middle stage, sky soar realm expert. That would place the city in a much better position, unlike now where they were having difficulties even defending themselves. Liu Wenyan ignored them. He looked at Bai Feng and frowned as he said, I don't need you to worry about this for me. Bai Feng, how many students are the Academy accepting from Nanyuan this year? Around 10. Bai Feng smiled. Martial uncle, do you plan to add a few additional students? Liu Wenyan ignored the question and asked, how many students are the Academy accepting in total? Around 2,000, but 500 of the 2,000 will be accepted from the other prefectures. The rest of the students will be accepted from within Great Xia. According to the statistics, the Academy will accept around 1,000 students from the capital each year. The remaining 500 students will come from the other cities in Great Xia. Of the 28 cities in Great Xia, Nanyuan was the smallest and the weakest. That was why they had the lowest number of accepted students. Each year, the Great Xia Cultural Research Academy would only accept around 10 students from Nanyuan. Take more this year, Liu Wenyan demanded. At least 2 more. Martial uncle, this isn't something I can decide. Assistant researchers have at least 2 free slots. Since you've stolen a 4th stage Skysoar cult member from us, pay with those 2 slots of yours. Martial uncle, you're being unreasonable here. I was the one who had killed the cult member. It's not like you guys can kill him if I hadn't arrived in time. Exactly. I'm being unreasonable. Liu Wenyan started acting shameless. Nanyuan lost over 10 students over this. The students are all feeling downcast at the moment. That is Nanyuan's fault. But at the same time, Great Xia is also at fault. The capital has failed to assist us in time. That should not have happened in the first place. It's only fair that you accept a few more students to help them recover from their emotional damage. Bai Feng opened his mouth helplessly, but no words came out. Yes, he had not been using the 2 slots assigned to him, but that was still quite a big favor to give. Finally, he gave up and said, sure, Martial uncle. Nanyuan can get 2 additional slots, but the students need to meet the minimum requirements. Otherwise, I can't do it. They will only end up kicked after entering the academy. Finally, a smile appeared on Liu Wenyan's face. That is only natural. Suyu and Lu Yue will get the 2 slots. Everyone looked at him in astonishment. What a crafty fellow. Those 2 were basically guaranteed to pass their examinations. They would definitely not be disqualified after getting the 2 slots. And by giving them the additional slots, Nanyuan's original slots remained the same, allowing 2 additional students to get into the Great Xia Cultural Research Academy this year. Bai Feng was aware of that since the academy had the names of these students as well. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Fine, that's good, I suppose. Their performance and accomplishment after entering the academy will add to my records. At the very least, those 2 wouldn't embarrass him. He would lose a lot of face if the 2 joined through him, only to get themselves kicked out of the academy due to their bad results. Liu Wenyan smiled. Good. Also, since they're entering with your slots, you should offer them some guidance to make sure they get in. I won't spare you if they end up failing their entrance exam. Martial uncle, about that. Bai Feng had a gloomy look. I'm a researcher. They're only secondary school students. The gap between them was too big. Was there even a need for someone like him to teach them? Assistant researcher, Liu Wenyan emphasized, reminding Bai Feng that he was an assistant first and a researcher second. Fine. Since that's what Martial uncle wants, I have no problem with it. Tell them to come see me. I'll be staying here for 3 days. I'm tired from the long journey anyway. With his goal accomplished, Liu Wenyan waved Bai Feng away impatiently. Kicking me off after getting what he wants, Bai Feng muttered helplessly and left. The principal couldn't help but to laugh and say, Old Liu, you're still very well respected, it seems. Looks like 2 additional talents will emerge from our school this year. To the side, the straightforward Xia Bing remarked, It's senior researcher Han, that's the well-respected one. What did you just say? Liu Wenyan's eyes immediately turned unfriendly, so Xia Bing hurriedly shut his mouth. That was the truth. Why couldn't Liu Wenyan accept it? If it wasn't for senior researcher Han, Bai Feng wouldn't have shown Liu Wenyan so much respect. For someone like Bai Feng, Liu Wenyan's current cultivation was nothing special. Xia Bing did the smart thing and voiced none of that. Instead, he shifted the topic and said, Earlier, someone reported that 2 cult members were killed near the cafeteria. One was killed using the school's training saber. The other had his heart crushed by claws. During the time of death, no instructors, city guards, or Windcatcher department officers are around that area. Liu Wenyan frowned and said, It doesn't matter. Are you suggesting that you need to have an official position to kill someone from the Myriad race cult? You misunderstand, Instructor Liu. I am worried that we have an undercover in the school. But the undercover is not likely to be too strong. The cult member has probably been killed by a sneak attack. The attacker is most likely a great strength cultivator. Did anyone claim the kill? Not yet. We're still tallying the results of the battle. The principal gave it some thought and said, if it's a great strength cultivator, it will be hard to find. But if we really have an undercover great strength cultivator here, it doesn't matter. The school isn't so weak that we can't handle a great strength cultivator. Old Liu has broken through. We can even deal with infinite strength cultivators now. You can stop the investigation for now. Don't worry about it. Maybe it's the parent of a student or something. The principal wasn't too bothered. It was likely that a parent was worried about their child and had sneaked into the school and killed the cult member during the battle. After the battle ended, they sneaked off again, since sneaking into the school wasn't exactly a feat worth bragging about. You're right, Xiabing smiled. We'll see. Maybe someone will claim the kill. I'm just worried that a student will come and claim the kill instead. After all, false claims are a serious matter. The academy entrance exam is near. If a student has a record of making a false claim, it won't be a good look. Which student would be stupid enough to do that? The principal was unbothered. It was a punishable offense for a parent to kill a cult member and have their child take the claim to help with their entrance examination. Liu Wenyan said impatiently, "Don't be so narrow-minded. It's not impossible that a student can kill a cult member through sheer luck. If a student really comes forward to make the claim, just investigate it. There is no need to make a big deal out of it." That was the end of the topic. The principal did not think that any student would claim the kill, but in truth, a certain student was actually roaming nearby, waiting for the corpse to be cremated before claiming the kill. Chapter 26. Merit, claiming 2. By the time the school was done handling the aftermath of the battle, it was already late evening. Suyu did not follow Liu Wenyan home. The instructor was very busy at the moment, so he did not intend to bother the instructor. After the emergency status was lifted, he went back home. He found his home dusty after being devoid of people for several days. Suyu heaved a long breath of relief after arriving home. He had killed 2 individuals today. He had been able to stay calm in front of Chen Hao, but in truth, he was feeling extremely stressed. He was no seasoned warrior. He was only an ordinary secondary school student. This was his first time killing someone. How could he not feel anything? I was lucky. If I had been unlucky, I would have been killed today. That was especially true for the first cult member. At the time, Suyu himself had nearly believed that the cult member was an instructor. If he hadn't been able to see through the lie, both him and Chen Hao would be corpses by now. Although I can unleash the offensive prowess of a 7th stage great strength cultivator, I am still too weak compared to a real great strength cultivator. If the enemy can react in time, I won't be able to survive. I'm still too weak. Only the strong can determine the result of a battle. If Instructor Liu hadn't broken through, the school would have suffered a defeat. No, that might not be the case. Bai Feng is around, but that proves even more that only the strong can affect the result of a battle. He had learned a lot today. During the battle earlier, the Skysoar cultivators were the ones to truly affect the tide of the battle. That was also the case for the Myriad race cult. After one of their Skysoar cultivators were killed, they fell apart like dominoes. A single individual had altered the course of the battle, ultimately resulting in the complete defeat of the Myriad race cult. Therefore, Dad is nothing but cannon fodder on the battlefield. Suyu was getting worried. The battle today was merely a small skirmish. His father, on the other hand, was on a super battlefield involving the Myriad races. That was completely different from what he had experienced today. Even Skysoar cultivators aren't anything special there. If 7 Skysoar cultivators can appear in a skirmish in a small city like Nanyuan, what about the Alhaven battlefield? Perhaps a random battle there would have the involvement of dozens or even hundreds of Skysoar cultivators. I have been too naive. Even if I join a war academy and get myself an opportunity to enter the battlefield for training, I still won't be able to do anything. What can a great strength or infinite strength cultivator even do there? I need to reach the Skysoar realm, at the very least. Only then will I have the mobility to move around the battlefield. Skysoar cultivators are strong enough to be a mainstay of the forces on the Alhaven battlefield. Many thoughts crossed Suyu's mind. But ultimately, he concluded that strength was what he needed. He had to get as much strength as he could in the shortest time possible. I need to continue cultivating with blood essence. He still had 5 drops of blood essence on him. 3 were looted off the 2 cult members, while the other 2 drops had been obtained through trade. $26,000, 10 gold coins, 5 drops of blood essence, 5 body forging pills, 7 merit points, 1 cultivation method, 1 martial technique. Those were everything Suyu had at the moment. The body forging pill wasn't something he could use at the moment. Only great strength cultivators could use those pills. In fact, those pills weren't cheap. The Zia Trade Company was selling them at 30,000 per pill. I need the 2 drops of iron-winged bird blood essence for my cultivation. I'll need to trade for more at a later date. No, I need to actually buy some with money and keep some merit points for myself. He also needed to keep a drop of blood essence for emergencies. After all, he didn't know if there were more cult members hidden around him. Suyu had never felt so weak before. He was even weaker than cannon fodder. While staying with Liu Wenyan, he hadn't dared to cultivate with blood essence. Now that he was back home, he no longer had any reservations. After swallowing a drop of blood essence, he repeated what he did before, and source chi started gathering around him. His 9 acupoints shone with a faint glow. His right ear acupoint trembled, showing signs that it was going to be opened soon. Previously, Suyu had only utilized less than half of the 1-hour active duration a drop of blood essence gave him. This time, he was able to last longer. The source swallowing technique was only the foundation cultivation method of the iron-winged birds. Thus, it wasn't exactly a fast cultivation method, but that was precisely why it was suitable for the present Suyu, who was too weak to withstand a faster cultivation method. About 40 minutes later, Suyu stopped his cultivation. His right ear acupoint remained shut. However, he had a feeling that one more session would open that acupoint and push him into the 5th stage. However, his body had taken in too much source chi today, so he would have to do it another day. I'll use another drop of blood essence tomorrow after school. I might be able to enter the 5th stage then. Suyu was in a good mood. The source opening realm wasn't a special realm. People generally couldn't distinguish how many acupoints one had opened. He wasn't sure if there were 5th stage source opening cultivators in Nanyuan secondary school. After all, some people enjoy hiding their cultivation to shock everyone during their entrance examination. As far as he knew, there wasn't any 5th stage source opening cultivator in Nanyuan secondary school. After the cultivation session, he used his remaining free time to study the loot he had gotten from the 2 cult members earlier. At the same time, Nanyuan secondary school. The sky was turning dark. In the instructor's office, Chen Hao was brought into the office. He had been waiting at school. After all the corpses were cremated, he finally went in to claim the kill. That led to the current scene where he was brought to the instructor's office. The principal and Liu Wenyan personally questioned him about the claim. The principal was incredibly furious. He asked solemnly, "You made the kill?" "Yes. You will be punished severely for falsely claiming a kill, do you understand?" "Yes," Chen Hao nodded. He was aware of that, but for him, Yu's kill was the same as his kill. He was most certainly not making a false claim. He did not feel any pressure making this claim. In any case, he had exchanged the claim with all his savings. It was a fair trade. As Yu didn't need the extra marks, it would be a waste to not claim it. Since he had purchased the kill with the money he saved over 10 years, the kill naturally belonged to him. Chen Hao was very confident. He was not making a false claim. He had even helped Yu attract the enemy's attention during the fight. He had contributed to the kill. As far as he was concerned, his contribution of luring 2 enemies was basically equal to killing one of the 2 himself. That was a perfectly logical explanation. The principal shot Liu Wenyan a glance. The instructor was stroking his beard, but he looked more like he was trying to pull his beard off. The instructor signaled that it did not seem like Chen Hao was lying. The principal was stunned. Was Liu Wenyan incapable of detecting if this student was lying? Was Chen Hao actually such a crafty kid? But he did not look like someone so crafty. For them, Chen Hao was basically a baby. How could he be considered shrewd compared to them? "Tell us, how did you make the kill?" "I was hiding in the cafeteria with Yu. Someone suddenly pretended to be an instructor and charged into the cafeteria. Yu saw through the lie and made up a story that there are more students around. That fellow stupidly followed him away. I followed behind him before cutting him down with my saber. Following Su Yu's instructions, Chen Hao gave a simple story. In truth, Su Yu was afraid that Chen Hao wouldn't be able to remember a more complicated story. Thus, a simple story had been fabricated for Chen Hao. Su Yu Liu Wenyan muttered, "Yes. You were together? Yes. Why were you holding a saber? The practical instructor said that the two of you had taken 2 sabers from the store at an earlier time. You said that he had broken through into the 4th stage. I refused to believe him, so we went to the combat room for practical combat. But he said that he wanted to keep a low profile, so we eventually left to look for a suitable place for combat. 4th stage source opening." The principal was astonished. "He reached the 4th stage? Yeah. He's cultivating very hard nowadays. I reckon that's related to Uncle Sue's departure to the Alhaven battlefield." The principal nodded in understanding. He wasn't too surprised. If one was lucky, it wouldn't be hard to advance into the 4th stage from the 3rd stage. Su Yu was a smart kid. He probably wasn't even trying very hard in cultivation previously. To reach the 3rd stage while not trying was quite a respectable achievement. Liu Wenyan gave it some thought and said, "How did you perform the cut?" "Just like this." Chen Hao swung his hand, imitating what he saw Su Yu did. To the side, Xia Bing was watching silently. He nodded when he saw Chen Hao's movement. As a Skysoar cultivator from the Martial Dragon Guards, he was able to judge that this was the exact move used to kill the cult member based on the wound he saw previously. Liu Wenyan asked, "There is another dead cult member outside the cafeteria. Was that your work as well?" "What?" Chen Hao pretended to be clueless. "That wasn't a kill they could claim. You told him that. 1 kill could be attributed to luck. 2 kills would be suspicious." Liu Wenyan smiled. "You only killed 1?" "Yes. Do you know how strong that fellow is? After all, you managed to kill him with 1 cut." "No idea." "No, I wasn't able to ask while I was cutting his head off." The answer enraged the principal so much he nearly laughed in anger. He said with a flat face, "Why did you wait until now to make the claim? Why not earlier?" "I was scared," Chen Hao said with an innocent expression. "This was the first time I've ever killed someone. I nearly pissed myself. It took me quite a long time to recover. But I guarantee I didn't piss myself today. I definitely didn't." The principal ignored those words. He scanned Chen Hao and saw some traces of blood on Chen Hao's body. He frowned slightly as he wondered if this kid was really telling the truth. "Where's Su Yu?" He went back home. "You said that he only wants the merit points. I can have the kill. Since he has contributed his brains for the kill, he deserves to get a share in the reward." Liu Wenyan laughed. "So you're getting the contribution while he's getting the merit points. You can get the extra marks for your entrance exam while he can get the tangible benefits for the kill." "Yes." Liu Wenyan looked at the principal before looking at Xia Bing. At that point, the principal no longer knew what to say. Xia Bing gave it some thought before saying, "Have you practiced any claw techniques before?" "Nope." "What did you feel when you cut the cult member?" "Nothing. I was too scared. I think I got my saber stuck. His neck was so hard." "Where's the saber?" "I returned it to the practical office earlier." "Did your father come to school?" "Nope." "I called him earlier?" "He's on overtime today. My dad is the deputy head of the traffic department." Xia Bing ordered, "Man, investigate his father's whereabouts today." "Roger." A Martial Dragon Guards member answered outside the room. About 5 minutes later, someone reported, "Shen Qing has been staying at the traffic department the whole day. During the battle, he stayed in the department to maintain the order of the city traffic." "All right." Xia Bing glanced at Chen Hao, who had a silly smile on his face. After thinking about it, Xia Bing looked at the principal and instructor Liu. "The school and Martial Dragon Guards can sign the document acknowledging that he made the kill. By killing a 7th stage great strength cultivator during active combat, a student is eligible to earn 30 additional marks and 3 merit points." He looked at Chen Hao and said, "There is also a dead cult member near the cafeteria. If that was your work as well, you can get 60 marks and 6 merit points. With 60 marks, as long as you're not a total idiot, you'll be able to enter a war academy." "Huh? There's one more?" Chen Hao asked. "So can that kill be considered mine as well? You can't find anyone to claim it." "What a waste!" Why don't I take it as well? I don't even want the merit points. I just want the 60 marks. Zia Bing was speechless. Both the principal and Lu Wenyan were speechless as well. Just what was this kid thinking in that brain of his? Since the one in the cafeteria was killed by Chen Hao and Su Yu, how about the one outside? Liu Wenyan shook his head and decided to let go of the matter. It was no big deal. However, it was indeed quite surprising that Chen Hao was actually able to kill a 7th stage great strength cultivator. I'll check with Su Yu tomorrow. Liu Wenyan nodded as he reached a decision. We'll sign our acknowledgement. The time, location, and circumstances surrounding the kill have all been explained properly. The spoils of war have been submitted as well. Even the killing weapon has been found. Unless someone else decides to claim the same kill, this case can be closed here. Zia Bing nodded in agreement. It was only a great strength cultivator. They had only paid so much attention to it because the one who had performed the kill was a student. Otherwise, they wouldn't even pay attention to the one claiming the kill. And thus, the matter was put to rest. Chen Hao left happily. Suddenly, the principal said, "Old Lu, did you really believe his words?" Liu Wenyan said nonchalantly. "It doesn't matter whether he's a genius or a fool. It will be shown when he joins a war academy. If a fool insists on joining, he can only blame himself after getting himself killed." Also, Su Yu was present as well. He's a smart kid. It's possible that they have performed the kill with trickeries or something. There's no reason to further investigate this. True. We also don't need to spread the news about this kill. We don't want the cult to look for the kids for revenge. We also don't want the other students to imitate their behavior. It will be too dangerous. The principal paused slightly before continuing. By the way, that student of yours is quite similar to you. He's very crafty. Instead of the extra marks he requested for the merit points. After all, he won't need any extra marks to join a cultural research academy. Liu Wenyan also smiled. Well, he can only do so because he's capable. Were you able to kill a great strength cultivator when you were a source opening cultivator? The principal was rendered speechless. Shortly after, the two smiled at each other. There was no need to pursue this matter. This year, their school would gain an additional War Academy student. Zia Bing's acknowledgement would be enough for that. After all, the words of the Martial Dragon Guards had a lot of weight attached to it. Bribing someone in the Martial Dragon Guards was harder than buying a position in a regular War Academy. It wasn't like the War Academies hadn't been accepting special students that came together with large donations to the academies. Zia Bing ignored the two. After signing the document, he left the office. Outside, he stopped and said, "I believe he did participate in the kill, but I'm unsure if he was the actual killer. It would either be him or Su Yu. Since Su Yu is uninterested in claiming the kill, I'll let Chen Hao have it. But if he does not have the talent or strength to do so, entering a war academy might do him harm instead. I hope you can tell him that." "We will." Zia Bing left. He still had some questions related to the dead cult member outside the cafeteria, but as mentioned by the principal and Lu Wenyan, it was no big deal. Chen Hao was the one who had chosen this path for himself. He better not regret it. Chapter 27, Chill 1 Divine Skywing Technique. Great Strength, Chapter, and Blood Clotting Blade. 1 Cultivation Method and 1 Martial Technique. These were the 2 books Su Yu had obtained from the cult members. He only gave the Blood Clotting Blade one look before tossing it aside. This was a low-ranked martial technique. The school had many similar techniques. There was no need to waste his time on it. Cultivation methods and martial techniques could be divided into the 4 grades of Heaven, Earth, Profound, and Yellow. Each grade was further divided into tiers of Peak, High, Middle, and Low. That was how the cultivation methods and martial techniques of the Myriad races were graded. The Blood Clotting Blade was a middle-stage yellow-tier martial technique. It wasn't completely useless, but it also wasn't anything valuable. There were a lot of such books in the school. It would be a waste of time to study this technique. As for the Divine Skywing technique, even if it only had the Great Strength chapter, he still spent a lot of time reading it. According to Bai Feng, the Divine Skywing technique was a trash cultivation method. But that was someone speaking from a much higher position. A cultivation method treasured by a higher-up of the Myriad race cult would not be so worthless. top-tier, profound grade. That was the grade of the cultivation method. Unfortunately, Su Yu only had the great strength portion of the cultivation method instead of the full copy. The classification of heaven, earth, profound, and yellow included the cultivation methods of all races. Su Yu did not know much, but he knew that a lot of human supreme experts only cultivated earth or profound grade methods. The Anping calendar started over 300 years ago. At that time, humanity did not have a lot of powerful cultivation methods. Su Yu read the book over and over again, going through the body cultivation and source qi absorption methods described in it. The human body mostly relies on the acupoints to channel the source qi and refine the body. The more acupoints one opens, the more source qi one can absorb, and the more source qi one can store. The opening of the 9 acupoints willed the foundation. At the great strength realm, one can start opening other acupoints and absorb source qi to refine one's body. The Great Strength chapter of the Divine Skywing Technique shows the opening of 72 acupoints. After opening all those acupoints, one would reach the 9th stage Great Strength realm. This wasn't Su Yu's first time reading a cultivation method for great strength cultivators. Way before this, he had read the basic cultivation method of the military, the Great Strength Art. That was a simple name, and that was also a simple cultivation method. A majority of human soldiers cultivated that method. It wasn't that humans didn't have better cultivation methods, but those cultivation methods require richer source qi and stronger physical body to support the opening of more acupoints. Even if a regular cultivator was given a heaven-grade cultivation method, that person wouldn't be able to cultivate it. There just wasn't enough source qi in the human realm to support the cultivation of better methods, and without a strong physical body and foundation, one's body wouldn't be able to withstand the opening of too many acupoints. That would only cause one's body to implode from absorbing too much source qi. The Great Strength Art was capable of opening 36 acupoints. It was a top-tier yellow-grade cultivation method. For a regular soldier, it was very good. It could help one rapidly grow, and it would also grant one a relatively fast progression without much cultivation resources. In fact, some people had access to better cultivation methods, but would still cultivate the Great Strength Art, since progress with that method would be easier, granting them an easier avenue to extending their lifespan. As for the Divine Skywing Technique, one could open 72 acupoints during the Great Strength realm. It could be considered a rather powerful cultivation method. The opening of acupoints wasn't something to be done randomly. In the Divine Skywing Technique, all 72 acupoints were described in detail, with the opening sequence and the circulation route of source qi through the acupoints provided as well. Opening acupoints in the wrong sequence could easily cause the collapse of circulation. At that time, one source qi would start dispersing, and in the worst-case scenario, one might even die from the backlash. After spending a long time on the book, Su Yu concluded that this book was indeed a much better cultivation method than the Great Strength Art. Someone cultivating the Divine Skywing Technique would be stronger than a Great Strength Art cultivator. As for whether someone with a better cultivation method could kill a soldier with a basic cultivation method on the battlefield, that would depend on factors such as experience and determination. Strength alone would not guarantee victory. This method can open 72 acupoints. It can be considered a decent method. Of course, Su Yu did not intend to cultivate it. However, it was not a bad idea to learn more. After all, accumulation of knowledge would only benefit himself. As a researcher of the Myriad languages, these cultivation methods were also the subjects of his research. For example, now that he was aware of the positions of the 72 acupoints opened by the Divine Skywing Technique, he could target these acupoints the next time he encountered someone from the Divine Skywing sect and sever the source qi circulation of his opponent. That was why cultivation methods were not something that should be easily revealed to others. The 72 acupoints were their source of strength, also their weak points. Of course, not all acupoints were weak points. But the Hallmaster from the Myriad race cult was an example of what would happen when some of the acupoints were destroyed. His source qi had dispersed and even lashed back at him, killing him immediately. That was why Bai Feng had been able to defeat that Hallmaster so easily. In fact, Bai Feng had spent less than 10 seconds killing Hallmaster Chen, with half that time spent on talking. If Bai Feng had to rely only on his combat strength, It would probably not be as easy even if he could still defeat Hallmaster Chen. Naturally, the divine skywing technique would be even more complicated at the Skysoar realm. More acupoints would be opened, and many of the previous weak points would no longer be a weak point. Thus, it was clear how well Bai Feng knew the divine skywing technique. Skysoar chapter. Suyu only placed the book down after 2 hours. He couldn't practice a great strength cultivation method yet. He was only reading it to learn more about it. If he was a better researcher, he might even be able to infer the true cultivation method of the divine skywing race through the book. Naturally, he wasn't at that level yet. Not even Bai Feng would be capable of doing so. Cultivation methods and martial techniques aren't that useful for me at my current level. Blood essence, on the other hand. Suyu had studied the 3 drops of blood essence as well. The projection within each drop of blood essence was basically the willpower imprint of the beings these drops of blood essence had been harvested from. By studying the projections, he could determine the actual owners of these blood essence. 1 drop of iron-winged bird blood essence, 1 drop of fireboar blood essence, and 1 drop of bloodthirsty rabbit blood essence. All 3 drops came from commonly seen races, and none belonged to the divine race or the devil race. That wasn't surprising at all. How was an ordinary great strength realm cult member supposed to get his hands on the blood essence of powerful beings? These common blood essence was what these regular cult members usually used to help with their cultivation. The blood essence of the myriad races could provide a higher source chi density and strengthen one's physical body. That was extremely helpful for great strength cultivators. Humans generally used blood essence and pills to assist with their cultivation during the great strength realm. The 3 drops of blood essence might not be anything valuable, but they were still sold at no less than $150,000 at the Zia Trade Company. Not bad. Blood essence worth $150,000. Body forging pills worth $150,000, and 10 gold coins. Altogether, I've earned $400,000 from the 2 kills. Suyu was very satisfied with his harvest. It was true that riches and honor came amidst danger. The situation today might have been dangerous, but he had earned a lot from it. If he had submitted the cultivation method and the martial technique as well, he would have earned even more rewards. Even if what he submitted was not something new to humanity, he would still be rewarded as an encouragement for his contribution. After all, the 2 served as proof that he had killed at least 1 cult member. All in all, his wealth had reached $700,000 in value. He grinned, wondering if his father would feel embarrassed to learn that his son had earned more money in 1 day than what he had saved over 18 years. That night, Suyu dreamed again. The day he activated the book in his head, he had not dreamed. He did dream the next day, but unlike before, he no longer dreamed every single day. At times his dreams would come every other day, and at times he would dream every day like in the past. Suyu suspected that his dreams were appearing in a lower frequency, because almost all races in existence had already appeared in his dreams. He was now only dreaming of the few remaining races, so his dreams became more sporadic. In fact, he hadn't been able to see any popular races in his dreams recently. Perhaps he had seen them a long time ago and had simply forgotten. He suspected that the races he was seeing now were simply the weaker races. They were so weak that the book itself had nearly forgotten them, resulting in their late appearance. The monster Suyu encountered in his dream tonight looked rather familiar to him. It resembled the looping turtle he once saw in a book. However, he was unsure if he was right. He would have to test it out with a drop of looping turtle blood essence to be sure. But after thinking about it, he concluded that unlocking the looping turtle's page wouldn't be of much help for now. He should wait and see. In any case, his body needed a break after consuming so much blood essence recently. Ox-faced fish, iron-winged bird, and looping turtle were all races Suyu were able to recognize in his dreams. That represented that the more common races were finally starting to appear in his dreams. At the same time, the fact that he could recognize these races also signified that his knowledge had been growing. If it wasn't for the sheer number of books he had read, he wouldn't have been able to recognize the indistinct monsters in his dreams. Chapter 28, Shiltu Nanyuan Secondary School. On the way to school, Suyu learned of what happened the previous evening from Chen Hao. He was somewhat worried, but the deed was done. Chen Hao wanted to enter a war academy, and Su Yu certainly couldn't sit aside and do nothing when a chance presented itself. That was why he had allowed Chen Hao to claim the kill. That was possibly the only way Chen Hao could get into a war academy. With a nervous feeling, Su Yu entered his classroom. He had barely entered the room when he was summoned by a teacher. In the instructor's office. The teacher left after taking Su Yu to the office. There were only Liu Wenyan and a youth in the office. The youth was Bai Feng. Liu Wenyan was reading. With a large book in hand, Bai Feng was happily reading away while crouched at the side. Yes, he was crouched, not seated. A wide smile covered his face, as though he had reached an interesting part of the book. He did not look like a super expert capable of easily killing a fourth-stage skysaur cultivator. The two did not react to Su Yu's arrival. After offering his greetings, Su Yu stood there and waited nervously, wondering the reason for him to be summoned here. He was actually secretly observing Su Yu, and he was happy with what he saw. That kid had indeed reached the fourth stage. Previously, Liu Wenyan had not been able to sense it, as he still hadn't materialized his willpower yet. In fact, he could sense some weak source qi undulations on Su Yu's right ear acupoint. This kid was probably going to reach the fifth stage soon. After a while, Liu Wenyan looked up and indifferently said, "You've been spending your time cultivating recently." "Yes. Have you been reading?" "Not that much." Su Yu appeared somewhat embarrassed. "I had been worried after my father left, so I placed most of my focus on cultivation. It is good to think of danger in times of safety. It is also good to cultivate hard, however." Liu Wenyan's tone turned unhappy. Reading is also a form of cultivation. Reading 10,000 books, reaching the skysaur realm with one step. I won't stop you from cultivating. In fact, that is something you should do. But you shouldn't neglect reading. I know what you're thinking since you've even applied to the war academies. But like I said, it will take you too long relying on physical cultivation alone. It is an entirely different matter if you have deep knowledge and are well-read. I believe you've seen this person before. He's Bai Feng, an assistant researcher from the Great Xia Cultural Research Academy. He's 28 and has been in the academy for 9 years. Both his physical body and willpower are at the 6th stage skysaur realm. However, his true combat power is higher than that. Why? Because of his willpower. Not even regular 7th stage skysaur cultivators can be his match. Liu Wenyan said sternly, "He is only a mediocre student of the academy. If even someone like him can reach this level in 9 years, you can definitely do better." Bai Feng. Bai Feng. Bai Feng looked up and glanced at Liu Wenyan before lowering his head again after some thought. Fine. What could he do if this old fellow wanted to use him as an example to teach a student? Bai Feng was a mediocre student. Could a mediocre student become a researcher? Even if Bai Feng wasn't the top genius of the academy, he was still one of the best. He had entered the 6th stage skysaur realm before 30. He also had a chance to reach a higher level of cultivation within 2 years. Was someone like that mediocre? This martial uncle of his must have misunderstood what the word mediocre meant. Su Yu hurriedly said, "Don't worry, instructor. I will place equal importance on both. I've been studying for so many years. I won't give up on it now." "Good." Liu Wenyan had a solemn tone as he said, "Your cultivation speed is fast. You've never cared about it in the past. Now that you started caring, you were able to easily reach the 4th stage. You might even reach the 5th stage soon. This will probably give you a misconception that a war academy is more suitable for you. The path of physical cultivation might be the better choice. What if I tell you that even after entering a war academy, you'll still need a year to finish opening the 9 acupoints, maybe 3 years to reach the 9th stage Great Strength Realm, and probably 5 years to reach the 9th stage Infinite Strength Realm? That's the trajectory of a decent genius. Someone like that can probably reach the skysaur realm in 9 years. But you need to understand that the gap between the 1st stage skysaur realm and the 6th stage skysaur realm is very big. You might be stuck in the same realm for decades. You're only at the 4th stage source opening realm. Do not have the misconception that you're amazing or you're a genius. Nanyuan is a small city. If even Nanyuan can produce 4th stage or 5th stage source opening cultivators, what about the other cities? What about the capital? Beside him, Bai Feng smiled and said, I've been paying attention to the other cities. There are several 7th stage source opening geniuses in the list of students this year. Of course, 7th stage source opening realm is basically unattainable for Nanyuan. Meanwhile, such geniuses can be found everywhere in the capital. You can even find 8th stage source opening cultivators there. We also have some 9th stage geniuses that only need to link up their acupoints to step into the great strength realm. Of course, they are all holding back so that they can break through after entering the academies. This time, Liu Wenyan did not interrupt Bai Feng. He looked at Su Yu and sighed. I'm not trying to force you to enter a cultural research academy, but you need to understand that your talent does not lie on the path of physical cultivation. Even if you're somewhat talented there, your talent is still a far cry from true geniuses. Physical cultivation requires a large amount of resources. Blood essence, pills, combat experience, weapons, and all that will only make you poor. As the saying goes, martial cultivation is for the rich while studying is for the poor. Su Yu, as someone from an ordinary family, if you're not talented when it comes to willpower cultivation, I'll be happy to see you enter a war academy. But you have talent in willpower cultivation. I hope to see you walk further and climb higher in the future. The Cultural Research Academy does not care much for your cultivation early on, so you won't spend too much resources on cultivation. Even without money and combat strength, you can still reach the Sky Soar realm. But if you enter a war academy, it will be very unlikely for you to reach the Sky Soar realm. Do you know why aren't I telling this to the others, to Liu Yu? Even if she applies for a war academy, I won't stop her, because her family is rich enough to support her cultivation. Su Yu, this is why I hope you can walk the path of mental cultivation. I don't want you to wallow in regrets just because you lack the resources you need. Even if you're talented, you won't be given cultivation resources freely. Nothing comes free. There are a lot of geniuses in the war academies. You won't stand out, so that will be a much harder path for you. I only hope that you can walk a smoother path. Su Yu nodded repeatedly. He was touched. He knew that these were his instructor's heartfelt words. For someone from an ordinary family like him, there were things he couldn't afford. Of course, it wouldn't be an issue if he only aimed to reach the great strength realm, but he aimed to rapidly reach the Sky Soar realm. His family certainly didn't have the wealth to support that. I understand, instructor. I did not think it through. I'll work hard. Good. Liu Wenyan smiled. In the coming days, have Bai Feng give you some guidance. Just ask him anything you don't know. He isn't that special in the academy, but he's good enough to teach you. Bai Feng. Liu Wenyan had belittled Bai Feng so many times that even Bai Feng started doubting himself. Was he really nothing special? But he was quite popular in the academy, and even the capital itself. He was someone with the potential to step beyond the Sky Soar realm before 30. He was also one of the few assistant researchers younger than 30. But why did all that feel so worthless here? Why? Bai Feng felt incomparably gloomy. This martial uncle should probably look himself in the mirror when calling someone else mediocre. As someone who had only achieved willpower materialization after 70, calling someone else mediocre was basically the same as insulting himself. When Bai Feng saw that Su Yu seemed to actually approve of Liu Wenyan's words, he smiled indifferently. These kids really knew too little about the world. Just wait. After joining the academy, he would come to learn just how amazing his big brother Feng was. He would come to learn how difficult it would be to reach Bai Feng's level. Never told an ant the might of an elephant. The ant would not be able to comprehend the concept of that. Only by standing on the same height would that ant understand how incredibly powerful an elephant was. I'll be staying at Nanyuan Secondary School for the next 2 days. You can come see me anytime while I'm here, said Bai Feng before leaving with the book in his hand. After Bai Feng left, Liu Wenyan spoke with a low voice. Learn properly. Treasure the 2 days you have with him. Use everything you have, and take everything he can offer. Although you won't be able to learn everything he knows, you should still make good use of the 2 days I gave you. This is a good opportunity that you might not even get after entering the academy. I see. Su Yu was shocked. Was his instructor saying that even after entering the academy, he might not be able to obtain the guidance of a researcher? Each class will only last 1 hour. You're getting 2 days, 48 hours for free. Don't bother sleeping. Learn everything you can from him. This is worth 240 merit points. That is an amount you will take very long to earn. Go. I believe in you. Thank you, instructor. Su Yu's eyes lit up. The instructor and student looked at each other as a wide smile bloomed on their faces. Far away, Bai Feng suddenly felt an intense chill creeping up his spine. He turned around and cursed inwardly. Was his martial uncle preparing to scam him? What was his martial uncle going to do? Chapter 29. Beyond Skysoar 1 school dormitory. The school-provided dormitory was a large apartment unit with 4 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. Liu Wenyan could ignore Bai Feng, but that wasn't the case for the principal or Nanyuan itself. None of them could afford to slight a researcher, even if the researcher in question was only an assistant. Thus, Bai Feng's temporary residence was even better than what the regular instructors were provided with. Inside the living room, Bai Feng was seated on the couch. Standing respectfully before him were Su Yu and Liu Yue, waiting silently while Bai Feng watched the television. Plop! The television was showing a scene of numerous people being dragged out and executed. The day before, the martial dragon guards and city guards of the capital had been deployed. Tens of thousands of cult members were killed, and over 3,000 were captured. Great Zia had a ruthless policy where any captured cult member would be executed without trial so long as their identity was confirmed. The executions were being shown live on television. 3,000 might not sound like a big number, but the executions had been ongoing for more than 10 minutes, and it was far from over. Liu Yue was finding the scene hard to witness as she averted her gaze from the television. Su Yu was also feeling rather uncomfortable. He did not feel any pity toward the cult members, but he felt sick after seeing so much blood despite the fact that he had personally killed 2 cult members the day before. Bai Feng seemed to be enjoying himself. While leisurely drinking his tea, he commented, "There are numerous sects in the Myriad race cult, and the Divine Skywing sect can be considered one of the larger ones. Their sect master was a super expert as well. However, they suffered a complete defeat in Great Zia. Their sect master was killed alongside almost all their elite members. Looks like Great Zia has earned big this time." Both Su Yu and Liu Yue were confused. "Earned big? You don't understand?" Bai Feng smiled. "It's simple. The elites are dead. The sect master is dead. Who's the killer? How many people are there in Great Zia that actually have the ability to kill the sect master? Since the sect master has the guts to come, something must have given him the confidence. Nobody will be willing to seek death. What was his source of confidence? The other sect masters in the cult? No. His backers must have arrived. That was why he had the courage to enter Great Zia." Su Yu's eyes flickered as he asked, "Teacher Bai, you mean that someone from the Divine Skywing race was here?" "Exactly. They must be here. They must be here. And since the sect master has been killed, how about those from the Divine Skywing race? If they were really killed, wouldn't it be profitable for whoever the killer was?" Bai Feng laughed and said, "Things are going to get troublesome for the prefect." "Troublesome? Yes, just you wait. The various war academies and cultural research academies will be bothering him for the flesh and blood of the Divine Skywing race. I wonder if our principal is back. He needs to get something good for the academy as well. The prefect is going to be rich. Blood essence, flesh, weapons, and cultivation methods of the divine race. He is definitely getting rich. The prefect is probably going crazy right this moment. It is probably very lively right now in the capital." Putting it like that, Su Yu and Liu Yue naturally understood what Bai Feng meant. The two had a look of longing on their faces. They weren't really envious of those treasures, but they were simply getting excited hearing about so many valuable treasures. "Teacher Bai, are the intruders from the Divine Skywing race strong?" Bai Feng looked at the two and smiled. "Of course they're strong. I'm a frank person, so don't mind me. For people of Nanyuan, the Skyzor realm is the ultimate height. But for the capital, the Skyzor realm is merely halfway to the top. Or to be precise, that is only the first step toward becoming a true expert. Those from a small city would never be able to imagine just how strong a true expert can be. Of course, there is no need for them to know. For people like them, Skysoar and the realm beyond is practically the same as experts of that level can wipe them out with a wave of a hand. For a cultivator, the source opening, great strength, and infinite strength realms are the foundational stage, one where you strengthen your body so that your body won't implode from taking in too much source chi. Only by reaching the Skysoar realm would your voice hold weight in the academies, the armies, the sects, the various realms, and the battlefield. Only by reaching that level can one start being regarded as an expert. Su Yu's eyes were shining. He had seen too little of the world. Nanyuan was too small. His world had been too small. Teacher Bai, I know there are still more realms beyond the Skysoar realm. I heard from my father that the 10,000-man commanders are all in the Cloudbreach realm. Is that the realm one level above the Skysoar realm? Yes. Bai Feng took a sip from his tea and calmly said, "How far can a Skysoar cultivator fly? How high can a Skysoar cultivator reach? That is only the first step into becoming an expert. Only when you can breach the clouds and travel beyond it would you be truly considered an expert. At that point, even if you are facing countless infinite strength and great strength cultivators, what can they do to you? I'll walk on clouds high above the ground. No matter how strong your arms are, how powerful your armies are, can you reach me? On the Al-Heaven battlefield, almost everyone capable of leading an army of 10,000 is a Cloudbreach cultivator. At the Cloudbreach realm, you can even be a 1,000-man commander in the Martial Dragon Guards. In the Martial Dragon Guards, a stronger squad leader would be in the Skysoar realm, while a weaker one would be at the 9th stage, Infinite Strength realm. Their 100-man commanders are basically all Skysoar cultivators, and most of them are at the middle stage or higher. The Martial Dragon Guards have 5 1,000-man commanders. 3 of them are at the Cloudbreach realm, while the other 2 are at the 9th stage Skysoar realm. Su Yu swallowed. They were so powerful. How about their deputy general then? There was no need to talk about the general as he was Great Zia's prefect. But how about the deputy general? Bai Feng glanced at him and smiled. And above the Cloudbreach realm is the Mountain Sea realm. Capable of hacking mountains and severing oceans, a Mountain Sea cultivator can shake the world with every move. That is an incomparably powerful realm where with one strike, you will be able to collapse mountains and evaporate oceans. And beyond the Mountain Sea realm? Su Yu asked. I have heard the terms apex experts and invincible experts being thrown around before. Are these people in the Mountain Sea realm? No. A Mountain Sea cultivator is capable of ruling a region. Even at the Al-Haven battlefield, someone like that is qualified to lead an army. With one command, 100,000 soldiers will do their bidding. Someone like that can be a general or a deputy general of a powerful army. The deputy general of the Martial Dragon Guards is one such person. Only above the Mountain Sea realm will one be known as an apex expert or an invincible expert. That is too far away from you. You only need to know that those realms exist, but you don't need to ask too much about them. You will come to learn all that at the capital. There is no point in learning too much about apex and invincible experts. That is a realm far beyond us. You're not even a great strength cultivator yet. Are you going to become an invincible expert within one day after learning about it? You only need to know that they're strong, very strong. That would be enough. Most of the prefects are apex experts, and most of the prefecture founders are invincible experts. That is all you need to know. Su Yu felt his lips go dry. For the very first time, he felt very clearly how small Nanyuan was, and how low the sky above Nanyuan was. Here, an infinite strength cultivator was an expert, and a Skysoar cultivator was invincible. As for the realms beyond, such as the Cloudbreach and Mountain Sea realms, he had never even heard of the existence of such experts in Nanyuan. At the Cloudbreach realm, one could be a 10,000-man commander on the Al-Haven battlefield. At the Mountain Sea realm, one could dominate a region on the Al-Haven battlefield and gain command of an entire army. And beyond that were the apex experts and the invincible experts. Looking at the expression of the 2 kids before him, Bai Feng smiled joyfully. He loved looking at such shocked expressions. He had a somewhat unhealthy interest in generating such expressions. In truth, there wasn't a need for him to tell them all that, as they would end up learning the same at the capital. However, he had still decided to tell them. That was because he had been somewhat upset with how much Liu Wenyan had belittled him. Did this little genius called Su Yu really knew how high the sky was? After a short while, Su Yu heaved a long breath and calmed himself down. When Bai Feng saw that, he praised inwardly that this kid had a decent mindset. As a kid who had yet to see the world, it was rather incredible for him to be able to calm down so quickly. As for Liu Yue, she was getting slightly excited, but she was also mostly calm. Bai Feng did not pay her much attention as he could see that she was already aware of all that. The little excitement she displayed was only due to her desire for strength. The only person who was truly clueless here was Su Yu. It wasn't his fault. He was born here and he grew up here. He had not taken a step out of the city during his 18 years of life. Su Long had taken great care of Su Yu, but Su Long himself was only a great strength cultivator. Someone like him wouldn't really know that much about the world either. Li Wenyan had no reason to tell Su Yu things that did not concern him, and this information wouldn't even be available in books, so Su Yu truly knew nothing about the higher cultivation realms. It will be a very long time before you reach that realm. You don't have much time with me. Are you sure you want to waste your time on this topic? Bai Feng did not bother inviting the two to sit. He smiled and continued, I'll be here for 2 days. Before I leave, you can ask me anything. I'll tell you what I can. This is a rare opportunity for you. Su Yu asked, Teacher Bai, what exactly is willpower? How do I cultivate it? How do I measure it? How do I measure it? How do I determine if mine is strong or weak? Willpower. Bai Feng glanced at Su Yu and said, You're actually quite decent in terms of willpower. Of course you haven't properly sensed or cultivated it before, so you aren't able to measure it. Marshal Uncle has been trying to get you to join the Cultural Research Academy because he sensed the strength of your willpower. He does not wish to see you walk down a wrong path. As far as I am concerned, willpower is similar to physical power. Each of them is a type of power. One materializes externally, and one materializes internally. Physical power is akin to this glass. If I hit you with it, can you feel the pain? Su Yu nodded. Physical power operates similarly. If I hit you, you'll be hurt. You can directly feel it. You can also see it at work. How much it hurts depends on the quality of the glass. The harder, bigger or heavier it is, the more pain you'll feel. As for willpower, it is the power within the glass. You can't sense it, but the act of cultivating willpower is the same as filling the glass with water. He started pouring water into the glass. The state before the glass is full is akin to the state before willpower materialization. Even with your glass full, you still can't do anything with it. That was the state your instructor was in previously. His glass was full, but not overflowing yet. When the water is full enough to overflow, you will achieve willpower materialization. Bai Feng continued pouring water into the glass, to the point water was overflowing out of it. More and more water overflowed out of the glass. Sure, when you see the water overflowing bit by bit, you will think that it's nothing compared to physical strength. But what if there is a lot more water overflowing out of the glass? Chapter 30. Beyond Skysoar 2, more and more water was poured into the glass, and more overflowed out of it. Boom! Su Yu felt like he could see the water turning into a river. The water surged, flooding the room, flooding the school, and the river turned into a deluge, forming an ocean, and eventually reaching the sky itself. Cities were submerged and mountains collapsed. At that moment, Bai Feng's voice rang out. This is the strength of willpower. It can turn water into ice. It can also gather water into rivers or oceans. Like physical power, it is only a type of power you can use. However, it is also a unique power with no boundless possibilities. Presently, for physical cultivation, there is actually an end. Of course, the end is still far beyond us. In truth, one would start cultivating both powers upon reaching the Skysoar realm. For us, we will first let our water overflow before wrapping our water around the glass and strengthen it. A physical cultivator will first turn the porcelain glass into a stone glass before pouring water into the glass. If you ask me which is the better path, I can tell you that both are the same. It merely depends on your choice and talent. Just pick the easier path for you. The scene before Su Yu's eyes blurred before vanishing. The sight of Bai Feng with the glass of water entered his gaze. He gasped for breath before asking, "What if I can't fill the glass? What if, like Instructor Liu, My glass is full, but I can't get it to overflow. Will my willpower be completely useless? Strictly speaking, that's not true. At the very least, your thoughts will be sharper and you will have more energy than before. Also, if you're not even capable of willpower materialization, it doesn't matter what path you take. You will never be able to become an expert. Do you think there is a big difference between a great strength cultivator and an infinite strength cultivator? Can we measure the willpower's strength before it overflows? Yes, Bai Feng explained. Upon reaching a certain point, you can sense it yourself. Of course, experts who have materialized their willpower will be able to see it clearly. Take you for an example. Your glass is about 1/10 full. Your glass is about 1/10 full. I can clearly see it, but you won't be able to sense it yourself. When will I be able to start sensing it? When it's half full. At that point, you'll be able to sense it clearly. That power is within you, but you won't be able to do anything with it. We call that stage the mental tempering stage. That is not a realm, but you can also see it as something similar to the source opening, great strength and infinite strength realms. That is a very difficult stage to live through. Your patience will be tested. You can feel the power, yet can't use it. Will you be anxious? You clearly feel that you have enough power to face an infinite strength cultivator, yet even a great strength cultivator can defeat you with one hit. Will you be anxious? Yet you still have to suffer the beating of a great strength cultivator. Will you be anxious? But no matter how anxious you are, your willpower refuses to overflow. Will you be angry? It doesn't even matter how angry you are. Many people fail to get through this stage. They give up and switch into physical cultivation instead. People like that can be found everywhere. That is simply too infuriating a stage. Bai Feng laughed and said, I look forward to that day, to see you angry yet helpless. You need to know that at that point, the Academy will do one thing. During your mental tempering stage, they will allow the students of the war academies to visit for a study exchange. But that is merely an excuse to have them beat you up. You will be tortured. You will be insulted. You will be infuriated. Su Yu was dumbstruck. Even Liu Yue couldn't help but to softly ask, Teacher Bai, why is the Academy doing that? The answer is simple. To provoke you. Only if you can remain calm and truly know yourself will you be able to achieve willpower materialization. Of course, the tempering process is a double-edged sword. Some students will go mad and give up from sheer anger, but those capable of surviving this stage had all done rather well for themselves. Bai Feng laughed happily. This is the grand performance of cultural research academies. Upon joining, you can go and see how your seniors are tortured. It is a truly miserable process. Those from the war academies love nothing more than to brag about the big names from the cultural research academies they once tortured back in the days. Those big names are probably already at the Mountain Sea realm, while the war academy students are still at the infinite strength realm. They will tell stories of how who have been beaten until they piss themselves. Many people think that these war academy students are bragging, but they are actually telling the truth. Su Yu couldn't resist asking, Teacher Bai, is this what all cultural researchers will go through? What about you, me? Bai Feng said nonchalantly. That wasn't the case for me. I was too strong. I was already exceptionally strong during the mental tempering stage. Su Yu immediately realized that he had asked the wrong question, so he smiled awkwardly and stopped pursuing the matter. He hadn't suffered the same fate? That did not seem possible. This Bai Feng had probably been beaten to the point he cried as well. Su Yu was very surprised to learn that there was actually such a stage for cultural researchers. His horizons had been widened. As for the cultivation of willpower, Bai Feng switched the topic. Read, learn. Of course, you need to do more than reading ordinary books or learning ordinary characters. You have both learned different languages before. But what is the purpose of learning all those languages? The languages aren't anything special. But some texts with cultivation methods and martial techniques are filled with willpower. Reading those texts is the same as clashing against the willpower within them. The more powerful the cultivation method, the stronger the author of the text would be, and the harder it would be for you to withstand the text's willpower. Reading such texts is actually a type of test. In the academy, by the time you gain the ability to read a great strength original text, it means that your willpower has grown enough to contend against great strength cultivators. And when you reach the point where you can read sky-soar texts, you'll be ready for willpower materialization. The mental tempering stage starts around the time you start reading Infinite Strength original texts. Suyu finally understood. Suddenly, a white bone fragment appeared in Bai Feng's hand. This is a great strength cultivation method. Of course, it is incomplete. Such texts can be commonly found at the Alhaven battlefield. The Academy has a lot of these as well. You will be focusing on these texts as new students of the Academy. You can try taking a look at it. The willpower in this incomplete text is weak. If you can actually see the characters on it, it means that your willpower is nearly 1/5 full. Bai Feng had just claimed that Suyu's willpower was only 1/10 full, but now he was showing something that could only be read with 1/5 full willpower. Suyu did not think too much. He accepted the white bone fragment and started looking at it. Bai Feng guided him. You only need to focus on it. Suyu nodded and placed all his focus on the bone fragment. Slowly, the bone fragment before his eyes changed. It started glowing faintly, and from it, he could see some indistinct characters. Curious, he placed even more focus on the fragment. Boom! Right that moment, he felt like his brain had been hammered. With a painful wail, Suyu tossed the glowing bone fragment away. Bai Feng saw that coming. He smiled and said, "Even reading is an activity you need to pay a price to do. This is how we cultivate. This is how cultural research academies work. Do not think that studying at the academy will be the same as Nanyuan secondary school, where you only need to read some books in foreign languages. There is nothing special about that. Each reading session is a clash of willpower, and each session will temper your willpower. Naturally, you can't read too much in a day. Once or twice will be enough, or you'll drive yourself mad. In fact, the Academy has no lack of madmen. Many students have driven themselves mad reading something beyond their ability." Suyu felt like his head was going to burst apart. He was hurting so much he nearly teared up. After about 10 seconds, he opened his eyes and breathed heavily while slowly regaining his calm. This pain was similar to the sensation he would feel each time he was killed in his dreams. After so many years, he was already used to such a sensation. The pain had merely been too abrupt. Bai Feng was just about to say that it was fine to cry. In fact, that was actually normal among the students of their academy. But he immediately swallowed his words before they could leave his mouth. He looked at Suyu with his eyebrow raised. He was certain that Suyu's willpower was only 1/10 full, and yet this fellow had withstood the pain just like that. Impossible. The willpower in that bone fragment was twice as strong as Suyu's willpower. That would subject him to at least half an hour of pain. Bai Feng blinked, impressed with what he was seeing. No wonder his martial uncle looked so highly upon this kid. Perhaps this kid's talent wasn't anything special, but he was most certainly a tenacious person. At times, tenacity was more important than talent in cultivation. While grimacing with pain, Suyu said, "Teacher Bai, how about the willpower of a regular person? 1% full." Bai Feng cleared his mind of his thoughts and smiled. That is the level of a regular person. They have no talent in terms of willpower cultivation. Your talent is decent. As for Liu, her willpower is slightly better than yours. About 15%, I would say. Suyu smiled awkwardly. So it turned out that Liu Yue was better than him as well. Bai Feng did not say anything more. He could actually see that this wasn't Liu Yue's first time reading one of these incomplete texts. That was why her willpower was stronger. But in truth, Suyu was going to catch up soon. To the side, Liu Yue had remained silent. However, she was also looking at Suyu in astonishment. She had read one of these original texts before, so she knew how painful one's first experience would be. During her first session, she had spent half an hour crying and another half-day of sleeping before recovering. As for Suyu, was he a beast? Or perhaps this fellow was slow? He couldn't feel fear. In fact, after her first session, she was so afraid that she almost gave up her second session. But this Suyu was actually picking the bone fragment up with a look of longing, as though he wanted to read it again. Previously, he didn't care much about these two. But now his interest in Suyu was growing. With a smile, he said, "You can have it. But remember to not read it more than twice per day. You won't be able to withstand more than that. When you find yourself capable of clearly seeing the characters on it, your willpower would be 20% full. You will be one step closer to willpower materialization. This is merely an incomplete copy. There are 3 pages per copy. When your willpower is 40% full, you would be able to read all 3 pages in full. By the time you gain the ability to read the full infinite strength text, you would reach the mental tempering stage. Bai Feng had decided to give the bone fragment to Su Yu. This thing was quite valuable, but for him, it was nothing. Su Yu was unaware of the bone fragment's value, but that wasn't the case for Lu Yu. She looked rather envious. Her family was among the richest in Nanyuan, but a single original text would be sold at a price of no less than $100,000 at the Zia Trade Company. They had both arrived together, and she was obviously the stronger one. However, Bai Feng had decided to give Su Yu the bone fragment instead. From that, it was obvious Bai Feng was more interested in Su Yu.